So good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to join this online community for this global PropTech event webinar series. And today concentrating on Office as a Service and trends for 2020. And as introduced, I'm Vitalija Danivska from Aalto University, Finland. And I would like to share today kind of my take on the topic. And I apologize in advance if something goes maybe not how it's supposed to go. This is my first webinar, so I hope that everything functions well and I manage the system. Before I guess we jump into the topic, just a reminder that the video webinar is recorded, so you will be able to watch it later on as well in the Global PropTech YouTube channel. And also, if you have questions, you can post that on Q&A tab there, and I will come back to those questions probably at the end of the webinar. And so shortly, maybe a little bit about myself before we start, and for those people who have maybe never heard or seen me before. So I'm a postdoctoral researcher in real estate economics at multiple universities in Finland, actually. And I'm concentrating my research mostly on facilities and workplace management. And I've been studying real estate from different perspectives for over 14 years now. And for the last 5, really concentrating on the real estate management or facility workplace management topics. And kind of the scope is quite wide. There are a lot of things that we take into consideration, but they circulate around kind of different issues related to the management of office spaces, meaning that how to optimize the space usage, how to bring in the well-being into the workplace, and things like that. And last year I defended my doctoral dissertation on the topic called From Walls to Experiences. So workplace transformation from physical office space to workplace as a service model. So I guess that's why I'm talking here. And kind of one thing that I wanted to emphasize, and what is different probably from the topic that has been said here as office as a service, I use the term workplace and not even kind of a workspace terminology. Because I think that place, or when we talk about workplace, we should see it as a space with a meaning and context specific and kind of socially constructed, while space is pretty empty and still lacks that, let's say, human touch to the mere physical space. So, and at the kind of in that sense, it shows also that I take the perspective or look into the workplace kind of as a combination of physical space, digital environment, and of course, social environment too. So I think this is the way to create kind of the highest experience for people in buildings. So kind of shortly about me, and if you will have any questions, you can come back. The contact details are on this slide. So a little bit about what I would like to kind of talk today. It actually took a while for me to really try to combine everything into this short 20-minute presentation and kind of combine both topics, so as a service approach and trends 2020, because I thought maybe it's good to combine both. But I think that we will, in a way, continue with the trends that were visible in 2019. So very human-centric approach to real estate, the rise of well-being issues, wider data usage, because we've been collecting a lot of data around the buildings and people. And now we kind of find the good ways to really apply that data. So, and also connecting more services and these data points for kind of even outside the kind of block of building, let's say. So in my presentation, I will walk a little bit through employee experience, so well-being issues, talk a little bit about the growing flexibility and kind of network approach about shared spaces and services, and as well as discuss a little bit about the idea of using buildings as platforms, or even thinking about kind of city as a workplace in that sense. A lot of my work concentrates actually on servitization in a workplace. So you will hear today a lot of talks or mentioning of services. Kind of to start, I would like to bring in one slide from my doctoral dissertation, what I consider kind of important aspects in workplace as a service model. And for me, it is a very personalized offer, bringing that personal touch to empty space and making that workplace as a workplace, concentrating on the place part. So it's about kind of a network of spaces as well as a network of services available around the person and available on demand, so when it's needed. It's about kind of increasing that flexibility on many levels, and not only about the spaces and services, but also flexibility of work, or how we work and what we're allowed to do and what we're not allowed to do. And kind of with increasing that kind of flexibility, we also increase the employee experience. So kind of the more possibilities we have, and the more kind of we feel that we can be a part of whatever organization we're a part of. So kind of the experience hopefully gets better. So when we think about employee experience, it's actually, I think, so many different things. And basically it starts from the first contact with a company, for example, during the job interview, until the very last one, when one person leaves the company, or even later on. But how should organizations create that employee experience? And I think it's not about maybe having fruits available on the table, or maybe extra commuting benefits coming into your account every month, but it's more kind of the sense of belonging, being able to connect with others, being able to choose what suits you as a person and your team the best. So it's not really technology based, and I don't think it should be technology based, because it's more about the human kind of contact and the human touch on it. But definitely there are technological solutions which can help to kind of enhance that experience. And today, I will concentrate more exactly on these technological solutions rather than talk on more generalized level about kind of the social aspects or human aspects. So I think one of the most important trends that is going to continue and has been going on pretty strong, it's the well-being perspective. And I think here it is important to kind of to find the balance and not overdo it, meaning that work should still be about work and making things happen and getting the job done. However, there should be kind of a mindset change. We should be able to should be comfortable to stop when we need to stop, and not really feel guilty about that. So how can that be done? In some cases, and probably quite often, people can stop themselves if they're in a way allowed to stop. For others, some extra push might be needed. So therefore, I think, I see that there will be continuous growth of self-tracking devices and also biohacking. So if you're interested about that, I think there's a really interesting book written by Teemu Arena, Biohacker's Handbook, where he talks a lot about kind of finding the ways how to naturally balance the body and the nature rather than using some supplements if that's the case. And it's more about developing protocols and kind of listening to your own body and kind of optimizing the human performance, as he says. So I think this is something that's going to grow also from the office perspective, and maybe not yet in the upcoming year 2020, but I think in the future we will see more and more kind of possibilities to connect the data from self-tracking devices to buildings and kind of adjust the experiences that buildings bring in. Quite recently, we had one presentation of the project about smart restaurant services in the buildings, and at this point, we jokingly talked about that, but I think that might be possible in the future, that if you ate too much, you might not get to use the elevator in the building because some app might suggest that you should better take the stairs, and basically not giving you an option to do that. But yeah, so more kind of connected IoT-based solutions and machine learning algorithms to improve our experience in the buildings. However, with this kind of growth of technological use or technology use in the buildings and remote work and having these flexible teams and flexible environments, being able to choose, the loneliness is growing quite strongly, and kind of feeling isolated or not having the sense of belonging are really strongly rising issues, and there should be more attention put on kind of developing a different type of culture in organizations and in buildings. And so we will see more empathy coming into workplace, kind of compassion into the workplace, changing management and leadership styles. But from our research perspective, we talk a lot, how can we tackle the loneliness issues at organizational level? What kind of solutions should come into the buildings that can enhance these serendipitous encounters and kind of help to build the community around which is based in the same physical space? And I think in that sense, we will continue seeing the growth of co-working concept, of co-living concept, and all these different places that kind of talk about the social aspect and community building in the buildings. But even though the technology is kind of creates that issue of loneliness, there are also solutions that can help to kind of beat it a little bit. We quite recently published a report on smart well-being services, but unfortunately that document is available only in Finnish language. But if you read Finnish, again on the slide there is a link to the report, so you can look into that. And what we looked at there, we talked about or looked into well-being and kind of digital solutions to improve well-being at the office. So there are plenty of solutions in the market available that deal with improving the physical environment around us and the physical well-being. So ergonomics, lighting, air quality, and things like that. And there are a lot of solutions that measure different issues, and they provide the data on these issues. Then there are solutions that also kind of provide trends. So they collect the data and they learn that data and kind of help also maybe adjust some things in terms of how we can improve ourselves. So it kind of communicates with the person. And also a lot of quite many issues or services available to help with tackling mental well-being issues. So helping to meditate, helping to relax or concentrate, kind of reach that state of flow in terms of work. But it seems that there's a very, very small amount of services that tackle with social well-being issues. So helping or creating the networks also in digital environment, or helping us out to meet maybe in physical environment when we talk about offices and workplaces. And also kind of taking that network and platform approach to service development and creating the community. So I think there's still some space for development, and hopefully we will see more of that coming in the future. Another thing, kind of experience and personalization. So a lot of people talk about personalized solutions, and I do as well. And Anthony Slumbers, which is possibly the best known office as a service promoter, he has been talking a lot about personalization basically at all levels and in different types of properties or services and so on. Then, for example, another workplace expert, Neil Usher, who published a book of Elemental Workplace, he has been saying that maybe that should be less about very strong individuals and kind of personalities, and more about the teams at work. That's like the discussion should be about that, and spaces should be suitable for that. In my case, or I would like to say that for me, personalization is actually about being able to choose. And it doesn't matter in a way that if I'm like my needs as an individual or as a member of the team, they are changing throughout the different time kind of periods. I might work for some time individually, I might work with the team, and it might differ in different seasons and things like that. So the idea is that I should be able, or my team should be able to kind of get the spaces and services that we need, and being able to choose and adapt those services based on those needs. But how do we actually know, or how does organization, for example, know what we actually need? And so that's what I believe, that we will see more kind of data used and combined in office markets, kind of data-driven decisions. But there are multiple ways to profile and understand the user of the space. So socioeconomic data, which has been used for a long time, behavioral data, psychological attributes. We see more and more kind of profiling based on psychological issues, different kinds of activities, interest, and so on. A lot of this mobile data can be accessed, like social network data and so on. These kind of, again, AI-based or machine learning-based solutions, they're very much used in retail. So you get this personalized product offerings. The assortments in the shops are optimized based on the people that live around and shop there. So I think we will see more solutions like this coming to workplaces or office markets as well. But then the question is, if we want to access this type of data from people who are using different kinds of office spaces or workspaces, that's not easy. They many times they're not willing to share, and kind of that means that organizations need to give something in return. So the services that they are kind of they better be really good and really optimized for these people. So maybe in those cases, then people would be willing to share their personal data more. But I think about kind of the bundle of services and services everywhere. There will be another presentation today by Equium, so you can look into that a little bit more. Another thing, I think this kind of contemporary consumers, they're used to these on-demand services, really accessing real-time a lot of things like, and basically both services and spaces. So these new types of business models like Uber or Airbnb, they have been kind of spoiling our customers in one way, if I can say like that. And from the organization perspective, again, they cannot kind of offer all of these spaces and services based on people's needs. And in a way, I don't think that they should offer, meaning that's not economically viable and sustainable basically on any level. So I think we will still see continuous growth of shared services and shared spaces. So basically, this kind of sharing economy, it again increases the need for flexible and shorter leases. That it has been already going on for several years, and that will continue. And I think the biggest change there will be is this kind of the relationship between the landlords and occupiers, or owners and operators. So putting aside the story of WeWork, I think they still managed to do a lot in terms of kind of shaking the real estate market and making different types of players or actors waking up that things are changing. And these kind of new partnerships, because there have been a lot of issues related to kind of making these new types of contracts into practice. So I think also with technological help, we will see this kind of increased flexibility within each building, and kind of allowing this type of sharing services and having a bundle of services rather than one available for employees. And here I have a picture actually of this office as a service platform provider, that they connect multiple spaces around the globe. You can choose the spaces based on where you want to have it. Do you want to have it on the beach? Do you want to have it in the city center? What type of space you need? And many other things. So I think this is something that's in a way should come also to office, so occupier side, meaning that it shouldn't maybe be or it won't be a simple booking system that everyone uses to book a meeting room, but it's maybe also integrating other areas into one and going through the similar system. So I think some solutions should develop there too. And kind of in a way to finalize, I think, or I see and I believe that the platform approach will continue on growing, and towards even bigger scale outside of buildings to neighborhoods and even city scale. And that will also affect different types of buildings, because we can see that like all of the cities around the globe, they have a lot of unused spaces, different kinds of spaces. There might be municipal buildings, there might be schools, libraries, and so on. So there is this kind of a lot of opportunity to maximize the space usage. We also had one project done together with the Helsinki city municipality, and there's a link at the lower part of the slide where you can find at least the short research part and more information by trying to see flexible space network. But anyways, why do I see that this is a growing place? Because cities basically have a very broad supply of spaces. different types of diverse spaces, and also there is a broad demand in a way that all of the citizens living in the city, they can use that. So by finding the ways, like the most optimal ways to connect that supply and demand will benefit, I think, all of the stakeholders, because there's not a single, let's say, solution that is available at the moment that is easy to use, because there are a lot of issues that there are multiple small pieces that quite often do not work together. I like also how my colleague Ken Dooley from Granlund company says that buildings are going to be more and more like service platforms. Basically, it's just a box with a smart lock and easy access and kind of a booking platform available. And that's basically it. And then the building can adapt to the changing needs that happens. And it's much more easier to move the services that are available in the building if we think about maybe different businesses, like service businesses. But so we can move those where the demand is, but in a sense, you can never move a building. So you need to create the demand around that building or around the neighborhood or whatever area. And in order to kind of make things work, we need to have livable areas, kind of think about systematic change outside of one building scale, and thinking about neighborhood and kind of at least neighborhood level development. And I think this is something that's gonna grow in the future, and this is where we need to have more PropTech solutions available. So just to quickly summarize, because I think I'm running out of time already. So my take on the Office as a Service and Trends for 2020. So first, I think we will see a continuous kind of continuation of this very human-centric approach, taking care of well-being of employees, creating this ultimate user experience. And that should be the key for organizations as well as PropTech companies and solution providers. It has to be very intuitive, very easy, and very pleasant experience of using any type of digital solution. Second, I think we should really push towards increased usage of shared spaces and services, and tackle the sustainability issues from that side, because my professor always says that the most sustainable building is the one that is not being built. And we have a lot to use, so let's kind of use it in a better way, in a more optimized way. And the last kind of to create the experience that and increase this kind of sharing of spaces, we need to continue on developing platform approach and technological solutions that are open, kind of that can be combined with different solutions around, have this plug and play attitude that it can be easily adjusted. It should be very flexible, but this requires all the stakeholders in the ecosystem changing their mindsets, being much more open and wanting to work together, and also better data standards, because that's a huge issue that we end up tackling. But that is it from me. Thank you very much. I'll stop sharing the screen now and look if there's any questions there. Okay. Yes, I can see that there are a few. Let's see, I somehow see it on one side, but maybe besides social metrics, what other vendors I don't know if I can see the full, let me see. Yes, now I can move. What other data vendors do you agree are vital for behavioral profiling? Well, there can be many. I think it depends a little bit on different combinations that could be done. Of course, there's the economic data and this socioeconomic data. There might be different, like I wouldn't want to use any financial information because I think it's not about that, but it might be about preferences. And again, in a way combining with this kind of more personal psychological data points. But these are very issues that would need a lot of discussion, and what is kind of good, what can be used in a way that we would not intervene with the privacy of people. So there's no one easy, let's say, answer to that.